Chapter 237. Diana, my sister, have you seen it? Fate has shown that you will fail today. Why don't you join hands with me? With our strength, we can change this dark world. Isn't this your dream? Ares was confident. Originally, he had a 60% chance of winning today's duel, but after he understood Thea's purpose, his confidence soared to 90%. I am not your sister. Perhaps humans have all kinds of imperfections, and the greed of those in power is not worthy of my help. Diana's words brought a hint of joy to the corner of Ares's eyes, but her next words made Ares's face darken. But I am Diana. I have received the blessings of the gods, and my mission is to protect humans. Although I have not found my true nature, this is what my mother and everyone expect of me, Diana said as she looked at Thea. Their eyes met in the air, and they both understood each other's intentions. I will not let them down. For the sake of the innocent people in this war, evil god, today is the day you die. After saying that, Diana stomped hard on the ground and rushed towards Ares at full speed. Thea also activated her chosen talent, Eternal Night. The night sky, which was already dark, was now even darker. A cloud of extremely pure shadow energy turned into thick ink that adhered to Ares' body and began to madly erode his divine power. The divine power on his body flickered rapidly. Although the situation was finally stabilized, the light of the divine power was inevitably dimmed by a few degrees. What a strange talent. Ares was a little depressed. He was also one of the gods, and he also had his own chosen. The chosen of the human powerhouses had all kinds of talents. He originally thought that Thea was the chosen of Artemis, and her talent was most likely to be archery or hunting. He did not expect her to be this kind of talent that reduced her power, especially when he saw that Diana and Thea's divine power had increased greatly, and his own had decreased slightly. Thinking about the teachings of Artemis, he finally figured out the mechanism of this talent. This was a magical enchantment that discriminated against men. All the men in the area were weakened, and the women were strengthened. Thea was proud and was about to brag when she suddenly realized a serious problem. She almost bit her tongue. Diana's speed increased by 30%. She was like a tiger coming down the mountain, and she came in front of Ares and slashed down with her sword. Sister, that sword is a fake. Is it too late for me to tell you now? Thea looked at the blade getting closer and closer to Ares's head, and she was cursing Hippolyte in her heart. This old woman is too deceitful. Fortunately, things did not go as she expected. Ares was affected by her strange enchantment. Although he relied on his divine power to resist part of the debuff, his own strength was still reduced by 15%. On the other hand, Diana's strength increased by 30%. With one buff and one debuff, the strength of the two was instantly equalized. Ares's original 90% chance of winning was reduced to 60%. In the face of Diana's aggressive attack, he did not dare to take it head-on. His shoulders and legs did not move, and he stepped back 3 meters as if someone was dragging him from behind. He dodged the sword that could have turned the tide of the battle. Thea wanted to remind Diana that there was something wrong with the Godslayer. But now that Ares did not take it head-on and chose to dodge, she swallowed the words that were at the tip of her tongue. Ares was the real god of war, and his vision must be much higher than hers. She thought that there was something wrong with the sword, but she relied on the judgment made by the prophet of the plot. If the plot was different from reality, she would have made a mistake by asking Diana to throw away the real Godslayer. But she did not have time to think about it. Diana and Ares had already started to fight, and Thea could only support her with various magic arrows. In less than 3 minutes of the battle, Ares felt deeply frustrated. It was not that he was not strong enough, but that the two women in front of him cooperated too well and complemented each other very well. Just as he was about to rise into the air to fight, Thea pulled him back with a gravity spell, and Diana followed up with a shield bash. He wanted to control the surrounding buildings to drown the two of them, but Thea's continuous magic arrows interrupted his guidance, and he could not cast any spells at all. After dodging several attacks from Diana's shining sword, he took a break and prepared to summon a warrior from the god's kingdom to help. Although he knew that it was best to summon a female warrior in this damn enchantment, the god of war was also a discriminatory clergy, and female warriors under him were as rare as pandas. He had no choice but to find a male warrior, and he did not expect him to be of much use, as long as he could delay Thea. But unfortunately, Thea had been reading the magic books of the Constantine family recently, and almost half of the book was written about summoning and anti-summoning magic. Seeing that Ares had the intention to summon, Thea did not hesitate and cast a banishment spell, and the poor male warrior was beaten back just as he took a step forward. Ouch, damn it! Ares was annoyed. He was the god of war, not a mage god. Although he knew a few high-end spells by analogy, Diana was pressing him step by step, and did not give him any time to cast them. He had time to cast low-level spells, but his vision was too high, and he did not know many of them. The few spells that he did know were either destroyed or interrupted by Thea, and he was now in a difficult situation. Thea's interruption was very successful, but her output was also very strong. With the help of the artifact longbow, she constantly shot arrows full of dark and light energy at Ares, and with the excellent maneuverability of the skateboard, she constantly cruised around Ares. Many arrows were shot at tricky angles, and Ares could only take them head-on. Magic arrows were different from traditional arrows, and magic arrows would turn into pure energy and enter the target's body when they hit the target. Thea's elemental energy was very pure, and there were light, dark, fire, and wind. Several types of energy were constantly gathering in Ares' body, and from time to time, there were a few small explosions. Ares' divine power was inevitably not working well, and the result was that Diana hit his shield a few more times. As the god of war, Ares was very experienced, and he could estimate that the consumption of his divine power was much greater than the other two. He knew that if this continued, he would be beaten to death. He pointed at Thea from afar, and a green wave of light flew out. What was this? Thea only felt that the energy in the green light was violent and determined, and it did not look like a natural spell. She did not dare to take it head-on, and she dodged far away with the excellent maneuverability of the skateboard. Ares took advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and punched Diana with all his might. It's time to show you the difference between gods and you. Chapter 238. Ares had completely shed his mortal disguise. Armors, gauntlets, and even a horned helmet were put on. The hypocritical Sir Cripple had completely disappeared and was replaced by the god of war, who symbolized attack and slaughter. Countless images of war appeared around him. There was the Battle of Hot Spring Gate, the war between Saladin and the Christians, and the First World War in human history. Countless heroes were attracted by war and went to the battlefield. Some gained glory, but more lost their lives. Thea's eyes could not help but be attracted by the various illusions. Fortunately, she was now on the path of a god. The power of the priesthood of war was not directed at anyone. She shook her head and stopped looking at the illusions. This guy is quite powerful. Thea was shocked by Ares's invisible and amazing aura. Fortunately, her vision was broadened and she quickly regained her fighting spirit. She turned to look at Diana. In terms of the level of life, Diana was indeed much stronger than Thea. Although she was also frightened by the pressure of the priesthood, she quickly returned to normal. Do you think this is my real power? You are wrong. Ha ha! Ares laughed wildly. 1 became 2, 2 became 4, and finally 7 Ares in full armor. Each of them was armed with a sword, a giant axe, and a warhammer. That Amazon over there, do you have any way to counter it? This is the power of a god. Put away your ridiculous spell. Ha ha! Could be heard that Ares had a very bad impression of Thea. He had even cast aside the main character, Diana, and mocked Thea first. Oh my god! Thea was no longer the girl in Star City who was in the late stages of persecutory paranoia. As her strength grew, so did her temper. The Ares in front of her was relying on the priesthood of war to suppress the two girls. After all, he did not come in his true form. His strength was far inferior to Horus. What's so great about divine power? Thea muttered in a low voice. I have it too. Channeling the divine power in his body to the eye of Horus, the power of the eagle god was unleashed. Everything in the universe was clear at a glance, and a mysterious divine light swept across the group of Ares. What? Before Ares could figure out what was going on, he saw his 6 avatars vanish into thin air under the divine light. He was the only one who was still holding his 2 swords and posing foolishly. This is not the power of the Greek gods. Thea's glance stunned Ares. He had thought that it was a civil war among the Greek gods. He did not expect that Thea had the power of other gods. Although the Egyptian gods were now in conflict with Thea, and their conflicts were gradually increasing, she still had to say that the Egyptian gods were more serious and responsible. Take Horus, for example. Every day he would transform into an eagle and patrol around. When he saw injustice, he would judge it in the name of Ra. They could be regarded as a group of serious and responsible gods. On the other hand, their good neighbor, the Greek pantheon, was completely different. Zeus did not set a good example at all. Every day he would happily transform into a big black bull and tease girls everywhere. If even the king of gods was like that, the main gods below him would be even more crazy, as if they were sheep. Artemis had passed on a lot of knowledge about winemaking to Thea, and it could be seen how unprofessional they were. They had a lot of priesthoods about singing, dancing, eating, drinking, and pleasure. However, they did not have many priesthoods that were related to combat. Ares had defeated a large group of gods by himself. Although it was a sudden attack, it had a lot to do with the fact that the Greek gods were not good at fighting. Now that Sia suddenly glanced at him, his ultimate move was instantly broken. This made the god of war a little unacceptable. These 6 were not illusions, but real clones. The armor and weapons of the clones cost the god of war, the god of war, the god of war's own divine power that he had painstakingly accumulated for so many years in the human society. He roughly estimated that the other party was almost unharmed, and his divine power had disappeared out of thin air. Ares was angry. He was not a broad-minded god. Now that Thea had repeatedly offended him, he could no longer hold back. He threw the 2 long swords in his hand to Diana and reluctantly used his divine power to transform the 2 weapons into 2 tall and burly barbarian warriors. He ordered in his heart that he did not want to kill Diana, as long as the 2 barbarian warriors could hold her back for a while. You ant, rejoice. Your lowly life is lucky to be reaped by the god of war himself today. Ares pulled out a blood-red spear from the void and rushed toward Thea in the sky. Oh! F*CK, F*CK, F*CK. I'm OT. Aren't you a sworn enemy of Diana? Why are you looking for me? This is not how the script should be. He looked in the direction of Diana. The 2 barbarian warriors were holding her back, and Diana could not fly at this time. Sia turned around and ran when she saw Ares, whose eyes had turned red. What a joke! She did not have the magic foundation of hundreds of years. She was a fragile archer, and her defense was far inferior to Diana's. How could it be good if she was stabbed by Ares' spear that was glowing fiercely? There was nothing to say. Run. Of course, she did not just run blindly. Thea turned left and right in the air, constantly using the buildings in the village as obstacles in an attempt to slow Ares down. However, Ares had the memory of the original and his flying ability was perfect. His speed in the air was not inferior to Thea's, and he was even faster. Seeing that kiting was not working well, Thea could only run in the direction of Diana. No matter what, she had to let the defense warrior pull back the aggro. However, Ares saw through her little trick and kept blocking her path. In just 10 seconds, Thea was in danger again and again. The situation was dire, and Thea had to use one of her trump cards. Rune's shadow clone landed on the ground and ran away. Just a little trick. Although Ares was not as professional as Horus, as the god of war, he still had the basic ability to break through illusions. He ignored Thea's shadow clone and continued to chase after the original. This was not a little trick. Thea did not expect a single shadow clone to fool a true god. Her goal was to fight 2 against 1. Due to the sudden drop in the original's magic power, the shadow clone's self-awareness had also dropped to the bottom. She did not look as agile as before, but she could skillfully use Thea's various spells. Furthermore, the Eternal Night would also buff her spells. All kinds of weakening spells fell on Thea's head. At the same time, she kept controlling the skateboard to carry her, and at the same time, she turned around and shot Ares with magic arrows. Catch! Diana in the distance seemed to have seen her in a critical situation and threw something from afar. Thea forced Ares back with another explosive arrow. Knowing that Diana would not harm her, she grabbed the item and was dumbfounded when she saw it. Isn't this the Godslayer sword? Diana definitely meant well, but Thea really wanted to grab her neck and ask, is this sword real or fake? Waiting online, it's urgent.